roll call, Katie?
Mayor Mays?
Here.
Council President Rosner?
Here.
Councilor Browse?
Here.
Councilor Garland?
Here.
Councilor Young?
Here.
Councilor Griffin?
Here.
Councilor Scott? Absent.
Great. Thank you, Katie. It's not on the agenda, but we do have one resident here who would like to give public comment. So
Add it in.
We'll go ahead and do that at this point, if everyone's okay with that.
Do we need
I'm
to make
good
a
with it.
motion?
Do we need to make a motion to change the agenda?
We need to approve the agenda.
Council President, I think he wants to talk about that one item, so maybe you can call him up during that time.
We can do that. That'd be great. Okay. We will move on to new business then. We have a resolution pending, Resolution 2020-021, ratifying the city manager's emergency order regarding evictions during the COVID-19 emergency period. So we'll talk about that. You want to?
So let me introduce this, and Josh Soper, our city attorney, is on the call and working from home and crafted the order last night. But essentially this is an addendum to my original emergency declaration here in Sherwood that I had declared back on March 12th, which seems a long time ago from now, just 1 week ago. And it adds a moratorium on residential, a temporary moratorium on residential and commercial evictions tied to the COVID-19 situation. And the time period for this is only during the time of the emergency declaration in Sherwood, which we don't know how long that may be.
Currently till March 26th.
Currently till March 26th, I will probably be extending that. I am only allowed by code to extend that in 1 week increments, so I'll probably be doing that a series of time. That does not require council action. The original declaration, as council knows, did not require council action. I have pretty broad authority in emergency situations to make those type of decisions. This is one that I wanted to bring to our elected body because I felt it was something that you ultimately should ratify because it is a significant step to impose a moratorium like this on our landlords in town. So we are not alone in doing this. Many of you know Multnomah County did this a couple days ago. Beaverton did one. Gresham did one today. Most of the other cities have just done residential moratoriums. I chose to do a commercial one, actually at the suggestion of many of you, that if we were going to take this step, that we should also be very cognizant of our businesses who have leases and are very scared right now with the situation. So I included that in my order. Gresham actually was the only other city that I've seen so far that has done this. They've done a residential moratorium and a commercial moratorium like us. This does not mean, folks, rent is free. You still are responsible for your rent. The way it is structured is essentially if you are impacted economically by the COVID-19, by a loss of revenue as a business owner or loss of job revenue because you've been laid off, that you're still responsible for your rent. You just cannot be evicted during this moratorium period. And that you would be able to pay that rent back over a 6-month period after the declaration of emergency is complete. It is an attempt to, quite honestly, calm some of the fears that some of our residents and businesses have. Doesn't solve everything, as we know, and that's why I took the order today. But I did want to bring it to you to have further conversation, to see if there were anything that was unclear in it, or if there were further steps that you felt as the elected body to take here in Sherwood. So Josh, do you have anything more to add, since the actual order was largely crafted by you?
I don't have anything else. I think you did a good job summarizing it, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions from council?
I'll just put on the record, because I had a citizen ask me, and I'm going to read it. On section 4, the last sentence where it talks about evictions, does this mean that should a tenant decide to leave and has rents in arrear that we cannot hold them liable for that rent? And I got a response from our city attorney, and he said, no, it's exactly the opposite. Tenants are liable for rent, period. They just have 6 months after the end of the emergency to pay it. The reference to evictions means that landlords cannot use the eviction process to circumvent the extra time tenants have to pay the rent. So that was a question I had from a citizen. I just wanted to clarify that.
I'm online, but I can't seem to hear anyone.
Is that Doug? That was Doug, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah, that was Doug.
He must have just joined a while ago.
Doug can't hear us.
Brad's coming.
Can everybody else?
I'm showing Doug as having his phone muted.
Somebody text him.
I'll text him.
Okay. Unmute your phone.
This is all new for us.
I decided to come in person this time because I was watching the feed on the YouTube channel.
Is delayed.
That's when I was talking like, hey, I was waving back at Tim. It was like 2 minutes later. It was he already waved and moved on, and I realized, okay, it's not the same as being there live.
Oh. So he's, if he's on mute, he should still be able to
Unknown
hear us.
participant is now joining.
Unknown participant.
That's probably him.
It's probably Doug dialing back.
Is that you, Doug?
Yeah, that's me. I'm here.
Okay, good. Problem solved. All right. Were you done, Kim?
I'm done.
Sorry. Okay. So one of the things I wanted to point out as well is that again, this is just a moratorium on evictions, and it sets some guidelines for paying back that rent. The other thing it does too, though, is the individual requesting that relief has to show need. This isn't just where anyone
Correct.
can pop up. They need to show a financial hardship before they can ask for that assistance.
Correct.
That's right. They have to be able to demonstrate that through documentation, and they also have to notify their landlord that they're unable to pay prior to the due date.
One further just point of clarification, our plan is to do a FAQ and probably have it on our website tomorrow, both for landlords and tenants. And then any calls for clarification or information on how this impacts will be run through Dan Miller in code compliance. That's really where enforcement would happen if we had to get to that point. Like everything we do in terms of code enforcement, unless it's a health and safety situation, we try to educate as much as possible and not take a hardline enforcement action. So we'll do things to try to explain to everybody potentially impacted by this moratorium what it means, and a clear contact person if they still don't understand what is on the city's website and other communication tools.
And just to be clear, which most people probably know, but this just applies to residents within the city limits of Sherwood.
Correct.
Right. I wanted to just clarify one thing too. Josh said it was before the day rent is due, but Section 3, Article B says notify their landlords on or before the day rent is due. So is that true, Josh?
Sure,
On
yeah.
or before?
On or before the day rent is due. That's right.
Okay, so not
they
just
can't wait
before.
until it's past due and then make this claim that it was because of that.
Right. Thank you.
Great. So, and then one other just thought, and this is an area that we really have no jurisdiction over, but there is also a concern out there with the landlords that they have mortgages and they have banks they owe money, and that's a conversation that's I think is already happening at the state level. We need to continue to push that to get relief on that side of the equation as well, and even at the federal level. But we just don't have the jurisdiction to regulate the banks.
There could be options. I've heard one resident recently called and their mortgage lender let them do 1 or 2 months delayed, of their mortgage. So,
I've gotten that email from mine,
yeah.
that exact email.
So there's
Yeah.
options coming out.
And I didn't request it. I just got an email saying, if you need to call us, call
Right.
us. So,
Yeah.
Well, that's great. The banks are being proactive on that, so perfect. But I still think we need to
yeah.
be talking to the state about that and make sure we're
Correct.
protecting
Yeah.
them.
I would strongly suggest that we continue to lobby our state and federal officials that that is an important piece of the big puzzle to respond to this.
Joe, would it be possible to reach out to the other cities that have done this and see what their take is on that, and if they're also lobbying as well?
Yes.
More of us saying the same thing, more chance we're going to have of getting something. Right, so that'd be great. Any other questions or comments from council?
I'd like to hear from our resident in case we have any more questions.
That's where I was moving.
Perfect.
Awesome. So we have, can I have the sheet? We have one gentleman with us tonight, Warren Bamer. Did I get that right? Just state your name and your address, and we're not running the clock, so, around 4
My name
minutes.
is Warren Beamer, 15043 Southwest Ginkgo Court. So I've been a resident of Sherwood for 30-some years now. I also own a number of residential rental duplex units in Sherwood. These are low-income units, including the fact I have several Section 8 residents as well. So my concern, I just want to voice a landlord's perspective to make sure that I would be in favor of this if we also had a moratorium on mortgage moratorium, right? The bank can't come after me if I'm unable to pay my bills. And if I had a number of my tenants not paying, I would not be able to pay my bill. And we will end up with a large bank owning units in Sherwood instead of a Sherwood resident. So, and as soon as they do that, then they can take them, flip them, increase the rents, and so now you have increased rents. So you have a longer term issue that this could be created. So I just want to make sure we're mindful of that, keep pushing for. My concern, again, if you implement this, you don't have an ability to also implement that against the mortgage companies and protect the landlords. And I did have one question. If I'm incur fees from the lender, the mortgage lender, can I pass those on to my resident that's not paying? Can I charge them a late fee for not paying? And can that be part of the 6-month repayment?
I think our Section 4 says no late fee may be charged or collected for rent that is delayed for the reasons stated in the moratorium.
My concern is that I will be getting the late fee from my mortgage company regardless. So where's my protection?
Well, you do say regardless, but it seems like you're a citizen like anybody else. You can't call your mortgage lender and
I would
negotiate.
absolutely
Yeah.
be in favor of doing that, and I will do that. But if they don't want to comply, what can I do?
I think it's a really valid concern, and, as we talked about before the meeting, we don't have the authority to regulate the banks in that matter, but the state does, and obviously the federal government does, so we'll continue to work along those lines, because I think it's important to your point. We don't want an out-of-state bank, owning these properties, because you're right, they'll get flipped and our rents will go up, and we lose that opportunity to serve a very important part of our community here. So,
Thank you. Thank you so much.
all right. Any other discussion or comments from council? All right. Do I have a motion on the resolution?
I'll make a motion. I make a motion to approve Resolution 2020-021, ratifying the city manager's emergency order regarding evictions during COVID-19 emergency period.
Second.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and some seconds. All in favor? say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, council. And that is it. This is a short meeting, so I will adjourn the meeting at this time. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Bye.